Are you disillusioned with your life? Do you have a desire to ascend all your earthly worries? Maybe you've spent a lifetime trying to create the perfect life, only to be blindsided by heartache or tragedy. Have you ever said enough is enough? Are you thinking that you don't want to be here? What if these thoughts are a part of the awakening process? I'm Rennie. The information in this video will help you to navigate your journey from your three-dimensional life into a higher, more loving dimension, enabling you to shed your emotional burden. Maybe, just maybe, what you mean by I don't want to be here is I don't want to live in third-dimensional energy anymore. This can trigger you to reach for the enlightenment journey, awakening you to begin the cleansing process to live from a higher dimension of love. Instead of yearning for the world to change around you, change yourself from within and show the world how to transform pain into love. Clean up your emotional weight and free yourself to experience higher dimensions of love. Scientists and spiritualists are talking about a shift from living in third-dimensional reality to the fifth dimension, which emanates a higher field of love. A dimension is not a place, it's consciousness, an energy system that can be measured by the loving vibration it emits. We experience it with our perceptions, thoughts and emotions. You see, moving through dimensions is achieved with a change of consciousness. Are you willing to shift your consciousness to this higher resonance of love? If you said yes, then you must be willing to surrender some unloving patterns. But don't worry, because these patterns are currently causing you to suffer. Some people think of love as something outside of themselves, lucky if it turns up. I'm going to ask you to imagine love as an energy rather than a romantic connection. Imagine love without conditions, love at its highest dimension. Consider that before you were born into your body on this earth, you were a loving being residing in this resonance of love. Let's call this energy one soul, where all souls are connected in a field of love. Now imagine this love expands and scatters throughout the universe into billions of souls in many dimensions. Like a Big Bang theory for consciousness, is it any wonder that we can sometimes feel disconnected, lost and alone? The thing is, you are a part of this consciousness, so there is a part of you in all the dimensions right back to the source of one soul or God. My use of this term is to define the creative energy of the one soul. Another way to explain dimensions is with the in-breath and out-breath of God. If God were to breathe out, then the end point of this breath would have the least amount of love. It would be the most scattered and separate from its pure loving source. The in-breath of God would draw all this energy back to its source for filtering. As the breath falls in and gets closer to its source, it gets purer and purer with love. As a human, you inhale life-giving air and you exhale lower quality air. And so it is with God breathing in and out. The out-breath is a lower frequency or dimension of love. The in-breath is a higher frequency or dimension of love. As you move up through the dimensions, you are getting closer to the pure source of love, and it feels amazing. It's a coming home comfortable feeling. And how many dimensions are there? Well, the simple answer is no one knows for sure. Hey, where do you go when you meditate or dream? In this altered state, reality doesn't seem to exist. And what about dreamless sleep? Where is that reality? During an orgasm, the entire world is briefly shut out. Maybe we are moving through different dimensions every day without being aware of it. For the purpose of this video, I'll address the dimensions that relate to the spiritual awakening process, that being the third, fourth and fifth. Most people are living in the third-dimensional energy. As we think about love from the three-dimensional perspective, we square things up and make our love full of conditions. We create expectations, controls, innuendos, righteousness and non-accepting belief systems. It's not love that hurts, it's controlling in the name of love that hurts. That's what feels uncomfortable. Many third-dimensional ideas about romance and love are conditional. Fifth-dimensional energy is unconditional. I liken the experience of three-dimensional love to travelling in a car, and you have to do all the driving, and you hit lots of potholes along the way. Then there are all the crossroads, which make the journey confusing at times. With so many choices and influences, it can be perplexing to have to make decisions. But sometimes we get a glimpse of a higher dimension of love. Have you ever had an experience of pure love? Perhaps you have met your other half, your twin flame, or as I like to call it, your twin soul, and been instantly elevated into fifth-dimensional love. Or maybe you have been at a retreat and experienced a fabulous course or meditation that has left you connected to higher love. This is an example of showing you the opportunity of a higher dimension of love. While the experience of 3D is like driving in a car, the experience of 5D is like travelling in an aeroplane, floating above the clouds. All you have to do is sit back and relax as the journey unfolds. The trouble is we often don't stay in fifth-dimensional love. We experience this higher love and then it leaves us. One of the reasons for this is because our own energy isn't pure enough to reside permanently in the fifth dimension. You can't hold this higher love while you are carrying the unloving patterns of the third dimension. It's difficult to be loving when you have emotional baggage weighing you down. And so a process begins where you have to surrender. You have to be willing to let go of the unloving patterns. Most people are living in the third dimension, but as you begin to ascend to live in fifth-dimensional love, you move into the fourth dimension. This dimension acts in a filtering way. It prepares you to resonate with pure love so that you create and live with fifth-dimensional awareness. The power to create is stronger in the fifth dimension, but you won't be granted this power if you are full of unloving energy. Can you imagine the chaos if we were creating from anger, greed and revenge in the higher dimensions? In this in-between stage you might feel disconnected from your life. The fourth dimension is not a dimension to create from. It's a dimension that ends things. Any unloving patterns will be flushed out for cleansing. As you empty out your unloving perceptions, your essence vibrates at a higher rate. It's how you shift dimensions. This surrendering process is what prepares you to ascend further up the ladder of love, where you can create from a higher type of love. The fourth dimension is like travelling on a boat in a vast ocean. You might feel like you are lost at sea and can't see the destination. You'll have to trust the journey. You will know which dimension you are in because of how you are feeling. If life events trigger painful emotions, you will experience life three-dimensionally. If you feel empty and lost as though your soul is in the dark, this is the transitional phase of the fourth dimension. If you feel loving, compassionate and accepting, most likely you are living life with fifth-dimensional love. It's a love without conditions. You are a high-frequency being living in a low-frequency world. It's important to choose to act with the higher frequency of love. What if much of the pain you are experiencing isn't actually yours? What if you inherited it? You enter this world with a loving spirit and at first you can't do anything for yourself. Who doesn't love a baby? They just radiate love. And we don't feel judged by them. But as a baby grows, it absorbs hereditary patterns and unloving attitudes from the world. So here you are on planet Earth and you have inherited many unloving patterns, things you can't even see, but you feel them. All these patterns are like clutter over your soul, creating a murkiness and making it difficult to connect with your intuition, with love. Have you felt this murkiness? All this murkiness triggers us to react to these unloving patterns. I'm bringing you awareness, and if you can find the courage to clean up these triggers and clean your soul, you are going to shine with love. As such, you will attract loving experiences. I call this a disarmed state. In all my years of coaching, I have met people with silent triggers inside of them. These loaded triggers are ready to defend, and when a drama shows up in their life, the trigger gets fired, creating a sudden reaction. It could be a fight with someone or hurt from the past gets triggered again, which may lead someone to an unhealthy practice or reaction, and I always say people act out their feelings. My father was well regarded in the community, but often when he was triggered, he would be violent to the people he loved. The violent reaction seemed random. He would say, "That's not really me." However, it was how he acted. He knew the love was there, but he couldn't access it because of the murkiness that was clouding his soul. I assure you that what lies beneath the triggers is tremendous love and creativity, but you have to clean the clutter on the surface. And how satisfied do you feel when you clean something up? When you clean the house, you might not enjoy the cleaning process and you might find it a little difficult or boring, but how great do you feel when your house is clean? That's what it's like when you clean your soul. So what I offer you here on this channel is a lot of different ways to clean up the clutter, the mental, the emotional and the spiritual clutter that is clouding over your soul. I don't call it work because when you clean something up, you are going to feel lighter, freer. Does it require focus? Yes. You are going to be making love the priority, and love is the most powerful experience of the universe, so why wouldn't you choose it? When you awaken, you will go through phases of connecting with unconditional loving energy and feeling amazing, but you're also going to have to go through phases of cleaning up pockets of pain in the third dimensional world. So awakening to me is a bit of a process of experiencing fifth dimensional love, and I think you get a sudden experience of this to motivate you and give you the path. But then you drop out of it. You descend back to the third and fourth dimensions to clean up all the unloving patterns. All the resentments, judgments, blaming, righteousness and being offended have to go. This can be a little uncomfortable. Every piece that you clean up gets you closer and closer to living in fifth dimensional harmonious love. I feel it's a blessing when something is triggered. All the triggers are occasions to look within to heal an unloving pattern. You wouldn't know what you inherited if it wasn't for the trigger to bring it to the surface, into your awareness. These are opportunities for you to ascend more into unconditional love. So I encourage you to face them. It's more simple than people realise. If I didn't say this already, the path is love. Believe in love and start emptying out the patterns that aren't a match to being loving. You can churn over a painful trigger for hours, days, weeks and years and never heal it. Or you can find a way to return your inner energy to love. Courage is a quality of love. Be brave and do your very best in each of these situations to return your inner energy to love. And the key here is to tackle them one at a time. Don't stack them. You know that old pattern when something hurts you and then you stack another pattern from the past? Yes, she did this, or in the past this happened to me. And suddenly that tiny little trigger becomes huge, so huge that you can't deal with it. You are so overwhelmed that you can't find the courage to go within and clean it up. So please just take them one at a time. The best time to heal an emotional trigger is when it's triggered. Don't dwell on it. Don't leave it for weeks or months. Do your best to clean it up quickly. Does emptying out emotional weight ever end? As you are transitioning the dimensions, it can feel like you are going up and down a staircase as you ascend and descend the ladder of love. It's like playing snakes and ladders as you go up the ladder and experience higher love, and then you slide down the snake as an unloving pattern triggers you into despair, disappointment, resentment, blame or judgment. There can be highs and lows as you balance unloving patterns and perfect the state of love. One of the signs that you are close to emptying out all your emotional weight is a feeling of utter emptiness. You might feel like your life has stopped and people don't notice you anymore. One of the conditions of travelling through the fourth dimension is a feeling that you are invisible. People stop contacting you. Opportunities don't come your way. It's like everything stops, as though you are not here in the third dimension. Some people call this cleansing or ending phase the dark night of the soul. It can feel as though your soul has plunged into darkness and you seem to lose your senses. You might feel numb. Foods you once liked may not taste the same, and things that once made you happy may no longer interest you. It's challenging to reach for anything when all identities are falling away. Everything appears to be ending. It may sound like a difficult journey, so why would you undertake it? Because on the other side is the freedom from the pull of emotional weight and unloving patterns. It can be exhausting if you resist or if you block the expansion of your awareness though. The key in this stage is just to be a witness to it. You will also observe your thoughts and feelings and examine how you are living. Continue to empty out what is in contrast to love. Keep reminding yourself that the uncomfortable feelings are temporary. In the meantime, your intelligence or knowingness becomes clearer. You just seem to find solutions to problems without having to think or analyse much. You will feel like being private, and your physical body changes as trapped toxic energies are released so they won't become a disease. The desire to be busy leaves you when you choose to nurture yourself and be quiet. Relish your time alone to do the emptying out and healing. The discomfort and emptiness will lead you to reach for new practices to feel better. Be kind, be grateful, go for a walk, play music and watch a funny movie. Also be willing to get your health in order. Often this emptying out process is triggered by a sudden change in a person's world that challenges their identity. It can be triggered after a divorce, loss of a job or business, twin flame separation, injury or illness. As these identities suddenly end, it creates space and time for your soul, and you have the opportunity to do the inner cleaning work. I have often wondered if some people with depression may be emptying out the emotional weight so deeply that they are going into this phase of fourth dimensional cleansing and endings. It might be why they are feeling utter emptiness and loneliness, or why they have difficulty with the motivation to do things. It's difficult to be motivated in the fourth dimension because it's an ending energy, not a creating energy. I'm not saying that this is the case for all people diagnosed with depression, but for some, this might make sense. Could you even consider that the utter emptiness felt by a depressed person could be the emptying out of the three-dimensional patterns? With some spiritual understanding, they might move through this temporary stage with more grace. However, trying to hold on to things that are ending causes great suffering. It takes mastery. If you don't put the unloving attitudes of the ego down, the painful patterns will continue to recycle. Sometimes it can feel as though you are going crazy. Old habits and behaviours get exposed because they block divine love. Keep saying to yourself, I am love, I am love, I am love. Interrupt those pesky thoughts. Don't let them take hold. The old way of doing things is ending and nothing worldly seems secure. Old patterns are dissolving so you can create from a higher dimension of love. Have you seen the movie The Never-Ending Story? It's an insightful movie about a fantasy world being challenged by a dark force. A nothing is engulfing the fantasy world. Things are ending in this world and it's hard to battle the nothing when you can't see it or define it. When it looks like all is lost to the nothing, a young boy, pure of heart, uses a single idea to recreate this fantasy world. Anyway, I loved it and found the movie quite visionary. The fourth dimension is a deep emptying out stage, and having a spiritual teacher can help you gain perspective. Find someone who can help you to understand all the changes you are experiencing. Sometimes the biggest challenge in this stage is not to overanalyze things. It's important to go right into these feelings and meet them without resistance or attachment. Let them pass through. Once empty of the world's unloving patterns, there is a peculiar feeling of utter emptiness. In some ways you feel complete, as though there is nothing left to empty out or do. You no longer hook into human drama stories or get triggered to feeling painful emotions. But there is still this strange feeling of emptiness, like being in the middle of the ocean and not seeing land. This is temporary. You may experience several episodes of the dark night of the soul, moving through the fourth dimension. I have experienced many separate episodes as I have climbed the ladder of love. Each one lasted about 3 weeks, and I remember the feeling of utter emptiness. I had learned to surrender, and this is what was most helpful. They can last much longer, and maybe your willingness to surrender is what moves you through it sooner. As you come out of this temporary stage, your outlook on life here on earth alters. You will feel like you have a larger heart, and helping others seems most important to you. I have seen lawyers become healers, and business owners give their business to their staff as they have ascended the ladder of love. When I began my journey through this deep emptying out phase, at first I had to choose to be loving. So I noticed my reactions and let them go, emptied them out. After a while I felt harmonious. I was calm and centered, and there was no effort required to manage my reactions. And this is how I became a completely different version of myself. So why would you want to go through this deep emptying out process? Some people have had a glimpse of the fifth dimension. They have felt the peace and unconditional love of this level of consciousness. As you become more loving, you become more aware of the fifth dimension and its higher frequency of love. This awareness makes it easier to release your grip on holding on to unloving patterns. There is only one thing you need to enter the fifth dimension, and that is love. Possessions will not matter. Unhealthy relationships will fall away. Unhappy workplaces will cease to exist. Unhealthy habits will be easy to break. Unloving attitudes will no longer have a hold on you. You can have nothing but love and still enter the fifth dimension. Don't let your emotional baggage block you from living with love, harmony and balance. When you cultivate love for yourself, you will naturally act in loving ways. Love doesn't tell people what to do. Love leads by example. If you subscribe and activate the notification bell, you will be notified of new videos from me. My signature transformative style will leave you thinking about the changes you would like to make that will fill your consciousness with purpose.